In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, our one true God. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to our weekly broadcast, video broadcast, where many people tune in to learn about Orthodoxy, even people who are already Orthodox, and even clergymen, because sometimes clergymen, they call themselves clergymen, but they don't know what they're representing. Or maybe they've compromised themselves so much. They listen to us and perhaps build up some nerve to confess the wonderful Orthodox faith. Well, what do we have today from yours truly and our synod, the last of the good guys? Yes, the last of the good guys. And you could take that in every way you want to look at it. Because compared to all the other bishops, our synod is the last of the good guys. Well, today we have an introduction to an essay written by one of our bishops, Bishop Seraphim of Lagos in Nigeria. Let's put up a picture of our beloved Bishop Seraphim. And he wrote an essay. The essay is The One Church of Christ, the Ark of Salvation in the Midst of Apostasy. Wow, what a wonderful title here. He says, this is Bishop Seraphim. I hope we have a nice picture of him up there. Beloved in Christ, in an age of confusion, religious manipulation, doctrinal innovation, and spiritual uncertainty, the Christian soul must return to the question which is older than every modern denomination and more important than every theological fashion. Where is the Church of Christ? For Christianity did not begin as a marketplace of competing interpretations. It did not begin with thousands of independent assemblies, each founded according to the inspiration of a particular preacher. It began with Christ, the eternal Son of God, who called the apostles, breathed upon them the Holy Spirit, commanded them to preach the gospel, and promised to remain with them, with his church, until the end of the age. The Lord did not say, I will build my churches, but said, I will build my church. And St. Paul declares, there is one body, one Spirit, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, in his epistle to the Ephesians. This is the foundation of Orthodox theology, ecclesiology. The Orthodox Church does not understand herself as merely one denomination among many competing interpretations of Christianity. She confesses herself to be the only one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church, the Church which has received, preserved, worshipped, and transmitted the apostolic faith throughout the centuries. This claim is not made in order to glorify human beings. It is made in order to glorify Christ. For if Christ founded one church, then faithfulness to Christ cannot be separated from faithfulness to his church. Thus, this is the beginning paragraph of this wonderful essay. This is how an Orthodox bishop, a true bishop, speaks. Nowadays, You have clergymen. They go to universities. Oh, yeah. They get a bachelor's degree. They get a master's degree. They get a doctorate's degree and all kinds of subjects, like the Patriarch of Constantinople. Degrees in philosophy, international relations, degrees in divinity, taught by Protestants. Oh, brother. Master's degrees in spirituality. I wonder what that would teach you. Doctor's degree in canon law. I wonder how they could possibly interpret the canon law different than what it's written. So they have all of these degrees and diplomas, but our bishops, they went to a more strict academic learning. It's called the monastery. They became monastics. We became monastics. We learned how to break our will, to be obedient. And look what happens. We are the last of the good guys. You're right. The hardest school of learning is in a monastery. That we become real clergymen. In this age of apostasy, we have a lesson in this week. This is the 10th week after Pentecost. We celebrate today, Sunday, according to the church calendar. Why do I always have to say, according to the church calendar? Because these clergymen who have all of these irrelevant degrees from secular colleges in Europe and the United States, they changed the faith. They have no understanding of how to preserve orthodoxy, and so they changed the calendar. But today is St. Pantaleon's Day. And I wonder if they ever read the life of St. Pantaleon. Monday, the day after St. Pantaleon, we have the life of St. Irene Chrysvoulandou. When did she live? Right after the iconoclast, and I could say this as an iconographer for painting icons for over 60 years. Finally, these stupid and wretched iconoclasts were done away with in the middle of the 800s. What a temptation that this came upon the church. Well, St. Irene, in the time of the Empress Theodora of Paphlagonia and her designated regent, her little son Michael III, but he wasn't that little when she took over. At the end of the iconoclast controversy, she wanted to find a suitable bride for her son, a noble woman, well-educated, with the fear of God. So she sent out ambassadors from Constantinople all over the empire looking for the perfect young lady who could be her son's bride and eventually empress of Byzantium. And all the various young ladies who were picked came to the imperial city. So they picked all of these beautiful young ladies. They came, and when Irene came, she learned the news that Michael had already picked another woman, another young lady to be his wife. And so it was prophesied to Saint Irene to go to Constantinople by Saint Ioannikios. Remember? He told her,
Yes.
the convent of Chrysvoulandou needs you, I think he said to her. So she wasn't grieved that she wasn't picked. And so she asked, where is the convent of Chrysvoulandou? And they pointed her to where that convent was. And she said, that's where I want to be. It was prophesied to her. This is where she should be. And she joined the convent and was beloved of the abbess and all the nuns. And she surpassed them all with showing her love and her asceticism. And then her abbess died, and approaching her death, the abbess said, look it, I'm leaving. Now she had to say this when Irene was not in her presence with the whole sisterhood. And he said, look it, don't pick anybody to be the abbess before, other than Irene. But don't tell her now, because she will flee. She is so humble, we fear that she will flee. So God will show you a way. Perhaps go to the patriarch, the whole convent, and let him pick. The patriarch was Saint Methodius, who was clairvoyant. And after she reposed, there was great lamentation. And after they buried the abbess, they all went to the patriarch and said, we have to have another abbess. Please enlighten us. Who shall we pick? And St. Methodius says, we all know who should be the abbess. It's the handmaid of God, Irene. And she was there, and she couldn't say no. And so she had to submit. And immediately the patriarch ordained her deaconess of the great church. And then he made her igumenitsa for the convent, abbess. And then she went back. Of course, she was probably lamenting, but she prayed to God. Now, her life is a life of miracles. And she prayed to God, now that she's the abbess. She said, oh Lord, how can I be an abbess? Please give me an angel. Give me an angel who can stay with me and whisper in my ear or tell me or reveal to me what I should do and how I should. And God gave her a real guardian angel. And she became famous because of her miracles, how she cast out demons, how she healed so many people. And she became famous in Constantinople. Then, one time, a boat was traveling by the island of Patmos. Let's talk about this. And on the island of Patmos, the people on the boat could see an old man right on the shore, and they were going by Patmos. And the man on the island of Patmos raised his hand, and he said, stop. And the sails were full of wind, and the ship was going full blast north to Constantinople. And the boat did not stop. And then that old man with a loud voice said, let the voyage stop. And they all heard that, and all of a sudden, the boat stopped. And this old man, started walking on the sea. and came to the ship. And he had in his hand 2 bags. And he came to the captain and said, "This is a gift for the Patriarch of Constantinople, Methodius." And he gave him another package, and he said, "This is a gift to the Abbess of Chrysvoulandou, Irene. Tell them they are a gift from John of Patmos." And then he disappeared, and then the boat started going. And everybody in the boat was amazed. But the captain had these 2 packages, and he looked inside, and there were 6 apples, 3 for Saint Methodius and 3 for Mother Irene, Saint Irene. So the ship made it easily to Constantinople with a fair wind, and the captain went to the Patriarch and gave him his gifts. Unfortunately, it's not recorded in his life. But when he asked for, "How do I get to the convent of Chrysvoulandou?" and they showed him. And the captain went, and he asked for the Abbess Irene, and he said, "I was traveling by the island of Patmos, and this old man stopped the voyage, and he walked onto the sea, and he gave me this package for you, saying these are a gift from John of Patmos." Now we know that St. John the theologian received the revelation and wrote his gospel and the book of Revelations on the island of Patmos. And she thanked the captain, and he went away, and she opened and looked, and she said, 3 apples. 3 apples. I said, man, she understood that they were from paradise. So she immediately ate one of the apples that day. And the whole convent was filled with a beautiful aroma and fragrance. And then all bickering among the nuns stopped. It was a very peaceful, who knows how long it lasted. And then she saved another one for, I think she said, for Pascha. When Pascha came, she cut up the second apple in little pieces and gave a little piece to each of her sisters, her nuns in the convent. And then the third apple she kept until the day of her repose, because it was revealed to her one day, after she had performed some miracle in the convent, and she prayed to God that God will not glorify her on the earth. Or maybe that God will not glorify her while...
During her lifetime.
Yeah. Or even after, isn't it? Because, right, that not God will... She was so humble, she prayed that God would not glorify her during her lifetime or afterwards. And that day, she was in church, and she was given a vision of angels who were serving in the sanctuary of her church in Chrysvoulandou. And they were pouring fragrant myrrh on the altar table, and they were clothing the altar table with drapery of great beauty. And then Christ appeared, and the angels that were pouring the myrrh on the altar table said to the man who came, of great beauty, whose face shone as the sun, one angel said, "How long?" It's recorded here in her life. Then the angel who was attending the altar cried aloud to the great man with exceeding sorrow and dejection, quote, "How long, O Lord, how long?" Unquote. And a voice was then heard saying, quote, "Until the coming of the second Solomon, when the heights will be united with the depths, so both shall be one. Then the Lord shall be in this place to exalt and magnify the memory of his handmaiden." Close quote. After the voice spoke thus, the angels in white shouted aloud, "Glory to God in the highest," as they ascended into the heavens. Now, by this vision, the holy abbess understood that neither she nor the convent and its disciples would be glorified in their lifetime. Indeed, only a few days earlier, Mother Irene supplicated the Lord not to glorify her before the people of this temporary life. She desired this only in the kingdom of the heavens. This is one of her teachings, because the holy abbess also taught her nuns, saying, "Flee the honor of people as much as possible. For the soul that craves the honor of people is not vouchsafed to be glorified by the Lord." Well, she understood that she's not going to be glorified here. So, when do you think that happened? And she reposed. It was prophesied to her she would repose after the feast of St. Panteleimon. It was told that to her 1 year before the feast came. So she understood when the feast of St. Panteleimon came, the next day would be her repose. And so the feast of St. Panteleimon came, and she understood that she's about to be translated. And she was 103 years old. And everybody in the city marveled at the miracle because her beauty did not diminish. It was something of a great miracle in Constantinople that the abbess, the miracle worker of Chrysvoulandou Irene, is 103, and it's all noted that her beauty, her facial beauty and her bodily grace did not diminish because of her age. So on the feast day of St. Panteleimon, what did she do? She took that last apple and she ate a little bit of it on that last day. On that day, Mother Irene elevated her hands and eyes towards heaven and prayed before the Lord with this entreaty: "O Master, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, the Good Shepherd, who delivered us through thine all-holy and precious blood. Into thy hands I commend this small flock. Shelter them in the shelter of thy wings. Preserve them from the haughty dealings of the devil. For thou art our sanctification and redemption, and unto thee do we send up thanksgiving and glory forever. After praying thus, she sat down and began to smile when she beheld holy angels who greeted her. Straightway her face shone like the sun. Then she closed her eyes as though to sleep. She then surrendered her sacred soul to the Lord after having lived 103 years. Notwithstanding her advanced age, her beauty had not withered. In fact, the Blessed One appeared as a most beautiful young woman because of the grace of virginity. This was also due to the most modest ones, not knowing the world, nor the things of the world, but mostly it was due to the exceptional grace of God that she remained until the end with such facial and bodily beauty. Then the nuns bewailed and lamented, and what day was that? That was on the feast day after St. Pantaleon, July 28th, according to the church calendar. And her life was written in a manuscript, and it, disappeared for 1,000 years? Yeah, more than 1,100 years. Where did this manuscript go? It wound up in the Holy Mountain, in one of the libraries of one of the major monasteries. I don't know which one, I forgot. And the Holy Mountain. Then, in 1936, someone was browsing around in the library of that sacred monastery. And lo and behold, they found this manuscript, which told the miraculous life of this wonderful woman, Irene of Chrysvoulandou. And as it is, it was amazing. And then he made it known throughout Greece of this revelation of the life of Saint Irene. And then icons were made, miracles were made, miracles upon miracles. But what happened on the very same day that that manuscript was found? The life of the great Metropolitan Antony Kapovitsky reposed on that day. The prophecy was, because it said, until the coming of the second Solomon. And truly, Metropolitan Antony was, in reality, the second Solomon.
Yes.
Until the coming of the second Solomon, when the heights will be united with the depths, so both shall be one. So Metropolitan Antony united in his teaching the moral teaching of the church with theology. He united the heights with the depths. He showed that it is not possible to fulfill the commandments of Christ without believing in the dogmas. How can we fulfill the commandments to be of one mouth and one heart without believing in the persons of the Holy Trinity? It's not possible. When the heights will be united to the depths, so both shall be one. Then the Lord will place and exalt and magnify the memory of his handmaiden. So what is this? This is an indication to all of us. And I think it's very, very notable. Because the Russian Church abroad was, you could say, founded after the revolution by Metropolitan Anthony Kopasvitsky, the second Solomon. Why do we say the second Solomon? Because there was nobody. He is truly a gift from God to the Church of Jesus Christ on earth. Because among all the bishops that were living in every country, they all knew about this great hierarch from Russia. So much so that even he was elected patriarch of another patriarchate in Antioch, and he was not even a member of their church. But they wanted someone like this to be their patriarch. And how can you elect someone in another church to be your patriarch? And if he accepted, but there's no way. But to show you how much honor this man had while he was alive. So the revolution came. Look, he was born in 1863 of noble aristocratic family. He went to the St. Petersburg Theological Academy, and he didn't want to stay in there. He went to become a monk. He went to the highest institution of learning, where you learn to break your will. That means you learn how to be humble, which nowadays, where do you find bishops like this? They go to institutions of higher learning in Europe, in America, and they learn to be proud. They learn just the opposite. He was consecrated a bishop in 1897. He was given the jurisdiction of Volhynia in the Ukraine. In 1903, he fought against the Ukrainian Uniats. He fought against Catholicism. What a wonderful person. In 1912, he was selected as a member of the Holy Synod, the ruling council of the Russian Church. In 1914, he served as Archbishop of Kharkov to 1917 and became Metropolitan of Kiev in 1918. With the outbreak of the Russian Revolution, at that time Archbishop, participated in the 1917-18 Pan-Russian Orthodox Council and was named one of the 3 candidates for the Russian Patriarchate. By this time, he was made Metropolitan. Now, there were 3 names. The Pan-Russian Orthodox Council had 3 candidates to be made Patriarch of Moscow, which, in the time of the Bolsheviks, which meant that you were going to be killed. It was a death sentence. But he's there to serve the church. So his name was one of the 3. The other one was the Archbishop of America, Metropolitan Tikhon. And I'm sorry, I don't know who the third one was. Well, they picked. How did they do that? They got a chalice.
Yeah.
And they put 3 names on 3 pieces of paper. They put them in the chalice. This is in front of the whole synod. And they had a blind monk from the Kievan caves come to the synod. This monk was known for his holiness. Mm-hmm. And in front of all the holy bishops of this council, he chose a name out from the chalice, and it was Metropolitan Tikhon, and he was elected to be the new patriarch. The new patriarch. The patriarchate was going to be restored. And he was one-time Archbishop in America. He's one of the saints of America, is he not? And he was made patriarch. And then, at that time, the Bolsheviks occupation of Ukraine forced Metropolitan Antony to flee to Karlovsky, Yugoslavia. Bolsheviks occupied Ukraine, forced him to flee to Sremsky, Karlovsky, where in 1920 he assumed leadership of the Russian church outside of Russia, the Russian church in exile, the Russian Synod. At that time, he had all of his bishops had one mind when it came to the faith, and they were confessing the faith, and they were excommunicating the Moscow Patriarchate. They said, we have nothing to do with the Moscow Patriarchate because it's under Soviet domination. In that synod, he ordained Archbishop John Maximovich, called him an angel in the flesh, a true miracle worker. So this man became head of the Russian church abroad. And he's truly the second Solomon because his wisdom surpassed everybody. And as I said, he was a gift from God to the Russian church. He wrote so many articles, so many books. If you saw them, Vidika, what would it, how many bookshelves would it cover? He wrote so many beautiful articles that they would fill up a library. He had 27 volumes of Russian thick books. And did he ever make a mistake? The answer is, as far as I'm concerned, no. Did people criticize him? Yes. But it just so happened that all those who criticized him, who wanted to find fault with him, themselves fell away from the church. It's like the Jews trying to debate Christ and try to find fault with him. And it's a useless effort. This man was superior to so many people, so many bishops. So therefore, even 1,000 years earlier, this angel told Mother Irene, when the second Solomon comes, and lo and behold, when the second Solomon died, her manuscript on the same day was revealed, and it hit the newspapers in Greece, and everybody heard about this new manuscript of the life of Saint Irene. Oh, and I could tell you stories about bishops, old calendar bishops, who took advantage of her many, many miracles. They opened up convents, called the convents St. Irene Chrysvoulandou. Didn't matter. People had devotion for her, and they believed in her, and they prayed to her, and she worked miracles upon miracles. So many that this one bishop, sad to say, he was an old calendar bishop. In other words, all right, at that time, it was before 1965, when this split in Greece was going on. But this wonderful convent had so many miracles, and it brought in so many offerings from all over Greece and probably from all over the world, that this one bishop became rich. And God have mercy, as happens with people, he didn't want to share his wealth with the other bishops in the synod. This is one characteristic of the old calendarists. They fight among themselves because of all kinds of... So much wealth came into this one bishop. What is he going to say? What am I going to do with all this money? St. Irene she just doesn't stop helping all the people. And the people are so grateful because they're being healed from paralysis, from blindness, from all kinds of infirmity, from cancer. So he said, what am I going to do with this money? I'm going to buy an ocean liner. Yes, I'm going to buy an ocean liner. And it's going to carry a lot of people all around the Aegean and go from island to island. I'm going to make more money. See what happens? And I'm going to call it Irene Chrysvoulandou. He called the ship St. Irene Chrysvoulandou. Well, what happens when a bishop acts like this? Hey, this is his personal sins. And so he said to protect his wealth, he's going to separate from the synod. Oh, yeah. And that's what he did. So things don't work out well for people, for bishops who act unbecoming of their calling. This is just one story that me, a foreigner, learned of so many instances that have happened in Greece. Because I was part of the church, the Old Calendar Church, at one part of our life. So now, for everybody looking for the church, look and see where there were holy bishops. And I present to you, there were holy bishops in the Russian church abroad. From the very beginning of its inception, Metropolitan Anthony Kapovitsky, Metropolitan Anastasi, Metropolitan Philaret, and then this awful disease called ecumenism set in, even though our wonderful Metropolitan Philaret anathematized in synod with all his bishops, anathematized ecumenism as a heresy. What more does a person need to identify where the church is? So like our Bishop Seraphim, who came to us from the Alexandrian Patriarchate, one looking for the truth. Because if you are in the Alexandrian Patriarchate, Jerusalem Patriarchate, Antiochian Patriarchate, Greek, Russian, Serbian, all of them, eventually you're going to spot and understand that these people are not sincere about the faith, that they have developed awful teachings. They've accepted ecumenism. They've been anathematized by the Russian church abroad. They have accepted Masonry. They have accepted immorality. So how can these patriarchs be considered valid? So we thank God that we are members of the Russian church abroad. The Russian church abroad in 1994, sad to say, because of weak bishops, fell away, but we didn't fall away. There were bishops who did not fall away. But the majority of them fell away into ecumenism. But there's always going to be faithful. And we who were faithful, and bishops in Russia who were faithful, did not fall away. It's not hard to understand where the church is. So, I would recommend for everyone to read my biography. It explains how you must understand where the church is, because we had to go through all of this. I was born in the Antiochian church. I left the Antiochian church in 1965 when ecumenism started. I joined the Russian church abroad. We had holy hierarchs. I left the Russian church abroad when Metropolitan Vitali did not keep the faith as Metropolitan Filaret did. I had to join the Greeks, whom we ordained. They were the only valid church left. The Russian church in this country had fallen away because they went in communion with ecumenists. I was with the Greek church until the remnant of the Russian church abroad in Russia contacted me and said, "Come back to us." When I came back, I was unanimously elected to become bishop and then ordained in Russia, in the city of Suzdal, part of the Russian church, the Russian Autonomous Church at that time, which remained faithful. And when they also had succumbed to temptations, what are we supposed to do? We're going to stay with them if they are breaking the canons? If they are disregarding the faith? No. We do what Christ commands. If they persecute you here, you go someplace else. You go to where the church is found. And so we had to separate ourselves from the autonomous Russian church after we were ordained bishops by them. And then we remained in the United States with only one bishop, myself, for a short time. And then a bishop wanted to join us from America. And we wanted to receive him, but we needed two bishops, myself and someone else. So we contacted the Greek synod whom we were in communion with. At that time, they were legitimate, and they agreed to accept this Bishop Ambrose. And we accepted him in the synod, and we ordained Bishop John afterwards. So you see, it's not easy, especially for a clergyman. You stay with the synod as long as they are Orthodox. But if a synod, that means a group of bishops, a synod as a whole does something wrong, you should not stay with them. You should not accept it. Well, does something wrong according to the faith, you should not stay with them. Or if they persecute you uncanonically. And this is what happened. You follow the canons. The canons will guide us and protect us. This is a little overview for all those seeking to understand, why do we call ourselves the last of the good guys? Because that's how it is. When we see what is happening in these churches that have fallen away from orthodoxy, they are doing things that are unacceptable at all for Christians, never mind bishops, to do. You don't stay with them. That's how you preserve the faith, especially if you're a bishop. A bishop is sworn and made vows that he's going to uphold the faith. And thank God we are able, even though we went down to one bishop, and then we were two bishops at one time. And now we're three bishops. As God wills, so it is. He's not going to abandon his faithful. It's not going to happen. Christ does not abandon. It's sad to say, it's bishops that abandon him. So let's end this video by going through the calendar for this week. Today, Sunday, is St. Pantaleon. Monday is St. Irene Chrysvoulandou, the wonder worker. I didn't even say the miracle, how she was praying one time in her courtyard. Should I say it?
Yes.
She was praying at night in her courtyard, and she had two cypress trees in the courtyard. Cypress trees are long, thin trees, and the top is and they're high. They go 30, 40 feet high. Well, one of the nuns decided she's going to get up in the middle of the night. And she went out probably for fresh air, and lo and behold, she saw her abbess praying. It was a full moon. And she saw that these two cypress trees, they're long, thin trees. They grow in the east, all over Greece, and even in Asia Minor. Well, she two cypress trees in the convent. They bent over to St. Irene when she was praying. And the nun couldn't believe her eyes, because cypress trees don't bend over. So she went back to bed. And the next morning, she looked up and saw that the cypress trees were upright, like normal cypress trees. So the next day, she got it in her head. So this nun woke up the next night and saw the two cypress trees come down, and their tips went to the ground. And she came and she tied two kerchiefs, one to each tree. And in the morning, all the nuns got up, and they saw waving in the wind these two kerchiefs at the tip of the cypress trees. And the nun told all the nuns that she did it, but she didn't tell Mother Irene. And the nuns chided her, said, "Why didn't you wake us up so we could see the sign?" Then the nuns told Mother Irene, and Mother Irene chided and corrected that nun and said, "If thou didst see me sinning as a human, wouldst thou make manifest my sin?" The nun fell to the ground and begged for forgiveness. And St. Irene told all the sisterhood, do not divulge any miracle to anyone as long as she is among the living. Yeah, she probably knew that after she died, she's not going to be made famous for 1,000 years. Okay, that's the miracle of the kerchiefs on top of the cypress trees. So when we make an icon of St. Irene like here, okay, thank you all for listening. God bless you. And do the right thing.